الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على من بعث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we continue with the Tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah. Today we'll be covering verse 118, verse 118 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and those who have no knowledge, they say, why does Allah not speak to us directly? Or why does not a sign come to us? Similarly, so said the people before them, words of similar import. Their hearts are alike. We have indeed made plain the signs for people who believe with certainty. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with a common claim against those who want to reject the truth by presenting an argument that seems quite logical, seems reasonable. They present an argument, why doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk to us directly? Why doesn't He speak to us? Why can't we hear Him speak directly? Because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to them, according to them, he's claiming what he's reciting are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What he's reciting are the words, speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they cannot hear it. How did the revelation used to come to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Did anyone hear it? No. Only he could experience the time of revelation when the verses came down through Jibreel alayhi salam. Sometimes he said it was almost a ringing sound in his ears. So nobody could hear the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they were being revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So these people are saying, why doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak so that we can hear Him directly? So this is the claim, or they say, why doesn't He give us a sign? Something we can see, something we can be convinced by. This is not a sign, something we can see in front of us. Why doesn't Allah do that? If Allah exists, and if you're the Prophet, and the Qur'an is the truth, why doesn't He just show us in front? Then we'll all believe. We'll all believe you if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply shows us a sign. So this verse is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He restates what they're saying, and then what is the response? What is the response to this statement, to this request, if you like? So Muhammad ibn Ishaq reported that Ibn Abbas radiallahu an, he said that Rafi bin Huraymila said to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Muhammad, if you are truly a messenger from Allah, as you claim, then ask Allah to speak to us directly so that we hear His speech. So when this man who's not a Muslim, he claims, he requests the Prophet Muhammad, he says, you claim that Allah speaks to you directly. If you are truly a messenger, then ask Allah to speak to you, to speak to us so that we can hear His voice. We can hear the words ourselves. We don't have to rely on you. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse according to some of the mufassirun. Others said that this verse was revealed because the Arab disbelievers, the mushrikun, they were saying similar things. But anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins with وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. وَقَالَ, and they say, and those who have no knowledge say, again here, and وَقَالَ. Before we had وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودِ, and before similar why we said it's a list. Each one is connected. Like a list of claims that the Ahlul Kitab are making, a list of claims, claim number 1, 2, and they say this, and they say this. Each one is mentioned. In between there's other ayahs, but each one is mentioned and they're all connected because they are all claims that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing or responding to. So here, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, those who don't know, they say, what do they say? لولا لولا يكلمنا الله أو تأتينا آية. They say that those who do not know, so the first description of these people, لا يعلمون. These people who say this, those who say, oh, if only Allah spoke to us directly, they are first described as what? وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. These are people who do not know. They have no knowledge. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're saying. So first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala negates from these people is knowledge. لا يعلمون. They don't know. They're ignorant. Opposite of ilm is jahl, is ignorance. Then he says, وَقَالَ الَّذِي, and he connects this statement with the previous people. Why? Why is it the Jews sometimes say something, the people of the book sometimes say something, then the mushrikeen, they also say something. Either a challenge to the Prophet ﷺ, challenge to the Qur'an, challenge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah mentions all of them one after another in a similar way. Why? Because they are saying similar things. They are either saying something wrong about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they're saying something wrong about the Qur'an, or they're saying something wrong about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dealing with all of them one by one together or separately, but they're saying similar things. So hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connects it with this wow. So they say, if only Allah spoke to us directly, if only Allah spoke to us directly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already said, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. So definitely they are saying this out of arrogance. So by saying this, what do they mean? They mean we do not need the Prophet, we don't need Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we deserve, we are people who deserve to be spoken to directly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what their claim is. Because they say, no, if only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to us directly. They're trying to say that we deserve to be spoken directly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not need Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't need another person to tell us what Allah said. We're deserving that Allah should speak to us directly. Then they say, oh, ta'tina ayah, or that a sign should come to us. Here, ayatun nakira, it means a sign, which means any sign, even a small sign, should come to us. So they're saying two things. One, why, if only, meaning they're trying to say, if only Allah spoke to us directly, we would believe. If only Allah spoke to us directly, we would believe in the Qur'an, we would believe in Allah, we would believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they're saying, if only Allah showed us a sign, we would believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we would believe in the Qur'an. If only Allah showed us a sign, if only a sign came, any sign, that's what they're trying to say. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing their statement. Ayatun, a sign, any sign. By them saying this, what are they opposing? By saying, if only a sign came to us, what are they opposing? They're opposing the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the greatest sign to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the Qur'an through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's being recited in front of them. They're seeing this powerful revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not seeing it literally, but they're hearing it on the tongue of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the biggest ayah. This is a miracle. This is the ayah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is his miracle, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this miracle to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a proof, as an ayah, as a sign. So in reality, Allah is sending them the biggest sign, the most powerful sign, the most permanent sign, the most clear and plain sign, ayah. Ayah means sign. Ayah means sign. And each verse of the Qur'an is called what? Ayah. Why? Because each verse of the Qur'an is a sign. A sign to what? Points to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. the truth, the tawheed of Allah subhanahu, existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that this message comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each ayah, each verse is an ayah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent them the biggest sign, the Qur'an. And they're saying, in a way, they're trying to say this Qur'an is nothing. What you are speaking, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what you are telling us or what you are speaking, revelation from God, we don't even count it as a sign. This is what they're saying. أَوْ تَأْتِينَا آيَةً. If only a sign came to us, you know? If only Allah spoke to us or a sign came to us. So in a way, they're rejecting their flagrant rejection of Qur'an as even a sign. They're not counting it as an ayah. Because if it was for them, they would have said, oh, Allah sent a sign. We believe in that. We can see it's the truth. But no, they're trying to say the Qur'an, in our view, we're asking for even a small sign. The Qur'an is not even a small sign. If only you spoke to us or you sent us a sign. But the Qur'an, this is why what they're not understanding here, and this is very common, as we'll find out later in the verse, what people are not understanding is that a sign, an ayah, a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is related to intellect, that is related to knowledge, that is related to, using your aql, something you can't see, something you can't touch, is a greater ayah, is a more powerful ayah, is a more comprehensive miracle and evidence, and a longer lasting evidence than any physical miracles, any physical signs. For example, we know from the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was given many miracles, different miracles, and messengers before them were given miracles. Musa alayhi salam was given many miracles. But those miracles, when they're given as a physical sign, for example, Musa alayhi salam was given the stick, which turns into a snake, or his hand, he puts it under his armpit, and it becomes white and bright. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent punishment onto Fir'aun and his land. And these were signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But these were physical signs. They came and they finished. Any miracle that's physical, people will see it, like Musa alayhi salam defeating the magicians. It's a physical miracle, meaning people could see it. But it came and went, finished. After it's there for a few minutes, it's finished. But the Qur'an, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was blessed with a miracle which is not physical. Yes, today we have it in the form of the book and it was written down. In that sense, yes. But the actual source of it, the actual nature of it is ilmi, is knowledge. Because the verses we read, it's something we understand through the intellect. Before we see it, we hear it. The Prophet ﷺ heard it and he taught it and the people heard it. So it's an ilmi sign. It's something connected with the intellect, with knowledge, with using our mind. That type of sign or miracle is much greater, much more longer lasting, much more powerful, much more comprehensive than the physical miracles that these people are asking for. And they don't realize this. That's why Allah describes them as La ya'lamun. They don't know. They think they're asking for something big like a physical sign. Why doesn't Allah show this or show that? But no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given the Qur'an. And the Qur'an itself came and challenged these people. It's an ilmi miracle. It's a miracle connected with knowledge. That's why the Qur'an says, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. Bring a surah like it. Like if you do not believe in this, if you have some doubt that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then bring a surah like it. You should be able to produce something like the Qur'an. If you don't believe it's from Allah, so the Qur'an comes as a ilmi, as an intellectual challenge, challenging the intellectual abilities of the Arabs, because they reached their pinnacle in literature and poetry. in language, in expression. They reach their pinnacle, they reach their peak. And it's then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the Qur'an, and the Qur'an challenges them. If you don't believe in this as a sign, if you think this is not a sign, not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then bring something like it. Bring even a surah or a few verses like it. So this is what they don't realize. They're asking for a sign, but the sign is right there in front of them. The sign, the biggest, most powerful, most comprehensive sign is right in front of them, but their ignorance and arrogance has blinded them. Their ignorance and arrogance has blinded them from seeing that sign. You have to be able to see the sign. But if you're ignorant, if you're arrogant, you have kibr, your heart is blinded, your vision is blinded, you can't see the sign right in front of you. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of responding to their direct question, because what are they saying? لَوْلَا يُكَلِّمُنَا اللَّهُ Allah subhanahu لَوْلَا يُكَلِّمُنَا اللَّهُ أَوْ تَأْتِينَا آيَةً. They're saying, if only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to us directly, or a sign came. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not respond to their requests directly. You know, Allah could have said, no, I'm not going to send you a sign, or I've sent the Qur'an, or something like that. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, كَذَلِكَ قَالَ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِمْ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِمْ. That's not a direct answer. Allah is just saying, well, similarly, those that came before them, they also said something similar. He's not responding to their request. He's not responding to the direct thing that they've asked. They're saying, if you speak to us or show us ayah, sign, we will believe. But what is Allah saying? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is almost ignoring their requests, but instead of the reply, instead of the jawab, this is what Allah is saying. He's saying, كَذَلِكَ قَالَ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِمْ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِمْ. Indeed, or similarly, those before them said something similar. Meaning, this is nothing new. What these people are saying, bring me signs, speak to me directly, let's see Allah, let's hear His voice. These people before them said that. Because it's almost, the ayah is indicating that these people are not worthy of speaking to directly. These people are not worthy of speaking to directly. Why? Because they're in ignorance and because of their arrogance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only is not going to reveal anything directly to them, but even in His response, it's as though He's not talking to them directly. He's referring to them in the third person. He's not responding to them directly. He's simply saying something else. He's telling them another fact, that those who came before them said something similar. It's almost turning away from them. And what are those things, similar things that those came before them said? What are those similar things? There are many, many verses in the Qur'an that give us a description of what those people said, similar things to previous prophets. So some of them said, وَقَالُوا لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى تَفْجُرَ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ يَنْبُوعًا. And they say, we shall not believe in you until you cause a spring to gush forth from the earth for us. This is, actually some people say this is, they said it to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But people before them, like وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ لِقَاءَنَا لَوْلَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْنَا الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَوْ نَرَى رَبَّنَا. Some of them said, and those who expect not a meeting with us, why don't the angels be sent down to us? Or why do we not see our Lord? And they said to Musa alayhi salam, وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ يَا مُوسَى لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرًا. O Musa, when you said, meaning Bani Israel, to Musa alayhi salam, we will never believe in you unless or until we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly, just manifestly in front of us. So people have said these things. These are not new claims. These people who are saying this, كَذَلِكَ قَالَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِمْ. This is not new. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this? Instead of responding to them directly, He's simply showing them that these are the same thing the people in the past used to say. Meaning that even if Allah spoke to them directly, even if He showed them 100 signs, they would not believe. It's not worth responding to these people, because the previous people said this and more, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did show them signs, and they didn't believe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent miracles after miracles amongst different prophets, Musa alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam. But those who didn't want to believe, when they saw the miracle, they would deny it. They would say, this is magic, this is sorcery, this is deception, this is trickery. Why? Because they've made their hearts are diseased, they're ignorant, they've got arrogance. So Allah is saying, just go and see that those people before them also said these things. What was the result? That even when Allah gave them signs, clear signs, miracles, they wouldn't believe. So same with these people. They're not going to believe. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تَشَابَهَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts are alike. تَشَابَهَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts are similar. They're alike. They're the same. Who are they? Those who came before them, who used to say these things, from amongst Bani Israel, from Ahlul Kitab, from different nations, who used to say these things to their messengers, and these people who are saying this today to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tashabahat qulubuhum. Their hearts are alike. But here, qulub, some of the mufassirun said, because here, or in many places in the Qur'an, when the word qalb is used, it means aql, intellect. Meaning their minds, intellect are the same. They're similar. That's why they have the wrong understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wrong understanding of revelation of the prophets. That's why they say similar things. Because the disease, the problem is the same internally. It's arrogance, it's ignorance, it's rebellion, it's being rebellious against the truth. So therefore, they say similar things, they say the same things. And this is also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comforting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So don't worry, these people are making demands on you. They're saying, we're not going to believe you unless you do X, Y, and Z, unless you show us a big miracle. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also comforting Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by saying, you're not the first one to have been requested these things. You're not the first one to be rejected with these false claims, and you're not the first prophet to whom these demands and challenges were made. People before them came and they said similar things. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. Look at the beautiful response. Again, He's not directly talking to these people. He's just saying that indeed we have made plain the signs for people who believe with certainty. لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. For people who have yaqeen. Yuqinun from yaqeen. We have made plain these signs for people who have yaqeen. Meaning these people who are demanding these signs, they don't deserve any further evidence. They don't deserve any further proofs. If they're not going to accept the Qur'an as a sign, as an ayah, if they're not going to accept the miracle of the Qur'an, they deserve no further proof. And nothing will work with these people. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply turns their attention to the believers. قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. I've already made plain, made clear my signs. For who? Not for these people, not for people of ignorance, not for people who are rejecting the truth even after seeing the signs, not for people who are arrogant, but for who? لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ, for a people who have certainty. And yuqinun here comes in the present form, they said, like a present verb, which gives the impression that they are constantly, these people who believe, they are constantly renewing their yaqeen. They are constant. Yuqinun, these are the people who constantly have certainty. Meaning they renew their yaqeen and is constant and is thabit. It's there all the time, it's consistent. It continues with them. Yuqinun. So the Prophet ﷺ also said, and here that, bayyana, we made plain, we made clear, tabyin, we made clear, we made very plain that the Qur'an is a miracle for the humanity. It's very clear. The challenge of the Quran challenges people to reproduce it. If you don't believe it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then bring something like it. It challenged the Arabs, and by extension, because the Arabs were if anyone could come with something like the Quran, it was the Arabs of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, because they had reached the pinnacle, the height of eloquence and power of poetry and prose, etc. If anyone could bring something like it, it would have been the Arabs of that time. Since they failed, by extension, that proof goes on the rest of humanity. But the challenge is always open. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ, that we've made it very plain and clear, this Qur'an, this signs in the Qur'an is a miracle that nobody can reproduce, that nobody can deny. It's so clear, it's so plain, it's so obvious it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's so clear for those who, with the open mind, read and see the signs. Every ayah is a sign. So the language, the beauty, the way it's arranged, the words of the Qur'an, this Arabic, the way it's arranged, the power, the choice of words, the rhyming, the way it's easy to memorize. This is the miracle of the Qur'an. It's so clear. Allah is saying, I've made it very clear. قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, ما من الأنبياء نبي إلا أوتي من الآيات ما مثله آمن عليه البشر وإنما كان الذي أوتيت وحيا أوحى الله إلي فأرجو أن أكون أكثرهم تابعا يوم القيامة. Subhanallah. The Prophet ﷺ said that there is not a single messenger amongst the prophets that he was, except that he was given signs. And what type of signs were they given? Something, such a standard of miracle, ayah, sign. It was of that quality upon which people would believe. It's enough for people to make them believe this is a miracle, that this is a messenger, this is a prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every miracle He gave the prophets previously, they were of that level and quality. It's enough for people to see it and believe. And He says, but indeed I have been given the wahi, revelation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed it to me, meaning the Qur'an. I've been given revelation, the Qur'an. Therefore I hope, I expect, I have hope that I will be the one with the most followers on the Day of Judgment. Subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed this ummah with the greatest miracle. Something that will be easy to believe in, something that will be easy as a proof, as evidence. And even up to now, subhanallah, you talk to people of different faiths, but in terms of a living miracle that is the greatest evidence of the truth of the book of Revelation, of the truth of Islam, the truth of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, is the Qur'an. There's nothing more powerful, nothing more clear. And even those who don't have faith in Islam, even most of them admit this is unchanged. It's from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the book itself. They can't find any problems with it. There are a few who try to confuse people, or they themselves are confused, but generally people acknowledge this is more or less what was revealed to, or they don't acknowledge revelation, but they say this is at least from the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. It's the same Qur'an. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying that I've been given this, therefore I expect to have the most followers. Why? Because people will believe very quickly. It's a great miracle. And as I said before, it's an intellectual, ilmi, knowledge-based miracle, which outstrips any physical miracles. If the Prophet ﷺ if the Qur'an was not here, and you were told by your parents that 14 centuries ago a prophet came, and he split the moon, he had water gushing out of his fingers, he defeated his enemy, those are miracles without a doubt. But they would have finished at the time. People would have seen it, they would have believed it, but you would have nothing to connect back. But we have Qur'an, we have wahi that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored this ummah with, has favored and blessed the Prophet ﷺ with. And we still have this very clearly in front of us. This is a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. This is from His mercy that we have this great miracle right here in front of us. So this is how the verse ends, قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يُوقِنُونَ, meaning that we've explained this verse, we explained this ayah, the sign, miracle, we've made it very plain and clear to those who believe. Those who don't believe, those who don't want to believe, who have arrogance and ignorance, out of their ignorance, this sign, this huge sign, is not enough for them. So therefore any other sign will not convince them. So very quickly, as we finish off, what are the lessons from this ayah, verse 118? One of the lessons is that the Qur'an is the greatest sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's a blessed miracle that this ummah has been blessed with. This is the miracle that the Prophet ﷺ left with us. And we should take care of it. We should treat it as it is. We should give it its due respect. And, قَدْ بَيَّنَّا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يُوقِنُونَ. All doubts, questions, weaknesses of Iman, because these people are doing what? They're doubting. These people who are saying, they have doubt, they have disease, they have weakness in their faith. They can't believe that this is revelation coming to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So no doubt, people even today amongst the Muslim community, some people have doubts. Doubts about truth of Islam, some people get confused. Doubts about truth of hadith, of Qur'an. If they return back to the Qur'an and read it properly and reflect and understand and ponder, this Qur'an will take away your doubts. The Qur'an itself is the greatest proof, connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your heart will be at rest, at peace when you recite the Qur'an, when you understand it, reflect on it deeply. It takes time, it will take time maybe for some people, but for others, this is the most certain thing. When you read the Qur'an, you can feel it's the truth. You know it's the truth. This is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No other person could have written this. No other person could have expressed it in this way. The third thing is that don't worry about challenges and doubts that other people put towards your faith. These are nothing new. There's no new challenges that is being presented to Muslims today that hasn't been presented before. How could you believe in God and prove the existence of God and evolution? We don't need God, everything just came out of nowhere, Big Bang. It just all of a sudden came. There's no purpose, there's no design in life. These are things, if you look at the actual source, these are things people have been saying for thousands of years, hundreds of years. Maybe in different language, different concepts, but similar things. So there's nothing new. Everything is there in the Qur'an. And the key thing here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't debate with them in an intellectual debate, like a response, a rebuttal. in terms of proofs like this. No, he just mentioned about the Qur'an. When you want to convince somebody, yes, there is a certain level, if people have confusion and you need to discuss with them, sometimes it has to be academic, sometimes you have to answer certain questions. But the way of Islam is not that the prophets come to convince you intellectually only. The way of Islam, the way of truth, the mind isn't the only thing that can understand and decipher truth. We have other, we have other senses. We have other organs. We have the heart as well as the intellect. All together, you will know and recognize the truth. It's not through argumentation only. Arguments can lead you to a certain way. They may convince some people. But ultimately, truth, you will know the truth. You will be convinced through argument as well. Those are the proofs. But the Qur'an, the truth of Islam, the messengers simply come to remind. Every human being knows the truth. We were created with the truth. We were created on fitrah to recognize that there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know there's a life hereafter. These are inherent within our bodies, within our nature. As soon as we're reminded, we simply believe. That's why so many people believe, even though they may not be intellectually educated, they may never have heard a philosophical argument, they may never have read a translation or even of the Qur'an. There are many people who simply read the Qur'an or were born into Muslim families and they simply believe and their faith is strong. Because when they recite the Qur'an, they feel this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm not trying to say that Islam or the Qur'an just wants you to be believers emotionally. No. The intellect is there. That's why Qur'an often uses arguments, logical arguments. Had this Qur'an been from other than Allah, you would have found much ikhtilaf in it. That's a logical argument. And many arguments like that is in the Qur'an. But what I'm saying is, ultimately it boils down to those who believe, those who are open-minded, fair, objective, and they read, they will feel, they will know instinctively that this is the truth. It's not always about debating and arguing, but rather it's like feeling or experiencing the truth. So this is what we need to do. Come back to the Qur'an, renew our yaqeen, our certainty, increase our certainty. The more we return to the Qur'an, the more our faith will increase. And the more we act and live by the Qur'an, the more our iman will increase. Jazakumullah khairan. We'll close it here today.